Most people think an amount like 2.5 million or more automatically equals a worry-free retirement. But here's the surprising truth. The difference between financial freedom and financial fear at this level doesn't come down to how much you have, it comes down to how well you plan. In over 15 years of doing this, I've worked with dozens of retirees sitting on 2.5 million or more, and what I've seen would surprise you. The very same dollar amount that's led one couple to travel the world and do all the things they like to do in retirement stress-free has led to another quietly downsizing their lifestyle out of fear. If you're new to the channel, my name's Justin. I own a financial planning firm in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, where we help retirees all across the country make smarter financial decisions. And in today's video, I'm breaking down what 2.5 million actually provides in retirement, the lifestyle this enables, and the illusions that could quietly sabotage your retirement. So let's break it all down. And so illusion number one is safety. So on paper, 2.5 million looks like security. And I'm sure if you're watching this and you have less than that, you might be thinking, well, if I had 2.5 million, that would solve all my problems. But money anxiety doesn't vanish with more digits, it just changes form. It never entirely disappears. And so on paper, withdrawal rules like the 4% rule say that you could pull about $100,000 a year from a portfolio like 2.5 million and then make inflation adjusted increases to that amount. And it's true that following this based off of past return data means that you would likely underspend and have more money at retirement than you did at the beginning, assuming you were in a growth-oriented portfolio. But modern research suggests that sustainable rates might be closer to only 3%, especially in today's low interest rate environment. This paper suggests that the success of the 4% rule in the US might be a historical anomaly, and retirees might wish to consider their whole income strategies more broadly than relying on generic withdrawal rates. So essentially they're saying that we don't know what future returns are going to be, and I feel that's why adjustments are the most important factor in withdrawal strategy. So the 4% rule could feel safe until it isn't. And even with quote enough, retirees will often still underspend just out of fear. I've touched many times before on how retirees, especially wealthier ones, consistently will live below safe spending levels, not because they have to, but because they just don't trust the math on it. And I've seen this many times myself. Clients with 7 figures feeling trapped, delaying retirement, even delaying stuff like basic home improvements because the fear of what if outweighs any of the numbers on the screen. And the illusion here is believing that a number is what guarantees peace of mind. So case in point, you might be at these numbers that I'm talking about or even beyond them, but might still be watching YouTube or even this video because you're looking for that answer or that assurance. And the reality is, all the videos and information in the world is not going to solve the issue. The safety comes from having a strategy, a plan that gives you permission to spend confidently. And so the solution here is, I wouldn't ask, do I have enough? Because the definition of enough can always change. It's human nature for us to constantly be moving those goalposts. I would ask, do I have a plan that makes me feel safe enough to spend on the things I'd like to spend money on in retirement that bring value to my life? And here's where it gets tricky, because the moment people feel unsafe, they tend to chase the easiest looking solution, and that leads me right into the next mistake. And so illusion number two is the too simple mistake, or the too simple trap. And this is the one I see most often. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. The belief that having an amount like 2.5 million or even more means that the plan can just be really, really simple. And yes, the higher net worth you have, the more you can get away with suboptimal planning, but the more it will end up costing you over time and compounding against you. And it usually looks something like this and sounds like this. Like, well, I'll just take 4% a year withdrawal and I'll be fine because it's easy. You don't have to do a lot of thinking about it. Or even more common, well, I'll just put everything into CDs, fixed annuities, money market accounts because it's easy and it feels safe. And on the surface, that feels comforting. I totally get that. But at this level of wealth, easy is what often quietly costs people the most, and here's why. And so one of the reasons is taxes, or what I call stealth taxes. So most people have a lot of their wealth in pre-tax IRAs or pre-tax 401ks, and remember, that balance is not all yours. Those taxes are going to come due eventually, and if you don't withdraw it, then you'll end up with required minimum distributions, or RMDs, that will force you to pull money out and pay taxes even when you don't need it. And of course, that can shove you into a higher tax bracket, that can trigger those Medicare IRMAA surcharges. A quote simple withdrawal plan can mean losing tens of thousands every year in extra costs and taxes that you didn't need to pay. And this is where people reach out to me the most, right at around RMD age, when they realize that, uh-oh, I have these RMDs coming. I just realized it's going to create a lot of tax consequences. I might be having to pay more Medicare and IRMA surcharges, and they're disappointed that they didn't plan sooner for it. But often by that time, it's often too late to make any kind of meaningful course correction. In addition to that, the withdrawal order, or which account you're drawing from first in retirement, whether you're taking from your non-retirement or what people call brokerage accounts, your IRA, your Roth IRA, all that is very important. So plenty of research that we have shows that smart sequencing can extend a portfolio's life by 5 to 10 years. Get that wrong and you're leaving years of income on the table. And then you also want to make sure you're coordinating that well with Social Security and Medicare and not falling into that trap. So poorly timed withdrawals can end up making up to 85% of your Social Security taxable and doubling, or even in some cases tripling, your Medicare premium. So the plan might look fine in year one, but then it compounds against you every year after that. And for example, you could have structured things a little bit differently. Like if you needed to take a larger withdrawal, maybe you take some at the end of the year, one half of it, and then take the other half right at the next year. And that way you've broken it up into 2 different tax years. And then maybe you avoided triggering extra taxes on your Social Security or triggering those IRMA thresholds. And the last part of this is really important, the safe products trap, because retirees will often, I find they'll throw disproportionate amounts of money into quote safe stuff like CDs, fixed annuities, because they're very simple and they're not volatile. And a lot of this comes from just fear-based marketing. And I really can't stand that. I can't stand all the fear-based marketing that's targeted towards retirees just to get them to buy certain products. And it seems like the more fear-based marketing people use, the more they'll attract retirees to them. I'd rather tell you the truth and not manipulate you with fear-based BS. But many cases, retirees who do this, they forget about inflation. So a guaranteed $100,000 income today is only going to feel like $50,000 20 years from now. So stability today often means quietly eroding lifestyle tomorrow. And I've seen this many, many times firsthand. So retirees at 65 who felt secure because their account balances were safe and weren't moving, only to wake up 75 wondering why their quote guaranteed income is no longer buying the lifestyle that they were once able to have. And this especially hits people hard who realize this post-COVID, with as high as inflation has increased since 2020, it's really made a huge difference and been very eye-opening to a lot of people. And I think the danger here is mistaking simplicity for good strategy. So the reality is, with an amount like $2.5 million or more, the risk isn't necessarily overcomplication, it's oversimplifying everything. And now I will say some things should be simplified. I think your investment approach should definitely be simplified. You definitely don't need 6 different IRAs at 3 different custodians with 50 to 100 different mutual funds, ETFs, or stock positions. That's just complexity for the sake of complexity. I think having that streamlined, making that very efficient, consolidating your accounts to make life easier, I think that is an example where simplicity helps. However, planning properly though, and coordinating everything else, all the other dimensions together well, often needs a bit more complexity. And the right plan will feel simple. So you'll know your income, what's safe to spend, you feel safe about it, but under the hood, it's all working to coordinate taxes, withdrawals, inflation protection, healthcare costs, incorporating psychological and emotional angles. So without that, what looks like safety today becomes stress tomorrow. And so I'd say the right plan is like, it's kind of like flying on autopilot. So from the cockpit, it feels calm and effortless, the plane's steady, the controls are smooth, but underneath there are dozens of systems that are constantly adjusting altitude, speed, weather, navigation to keep you on course. If you turned all those off and just, quote, kept it simple, you'd eventually veer off course and you'd crash, even though everything felt fine and looked fine at first. And that's exactly what I aim to do here and what we want planning to feel like. So our clients get the executive summary and the autopilot feel, while underneath the hood, we're taking care of the full picture, the income, the tax strategy, inflation, healthcare cost, all that's aligned. And when clients see that, it's like a weight lifts off their shoulder. And I think that's the moment we strive for in every plan. I think that's what the fun and enjoyable part is about planning, at least for me. So that's what good planning is supposed to feel like. And if you're curious, if you have questions about your retirement plan and you want maybe some tips or some thoughts on it, feel free to click the link in the description below the video, fill out a quick questionnaire. I will send you back a personalized video giving you my thoughts on your retirement based on your numbers and some tips that you can take to possibly improve. And here's the irony about simplifying things. Even if you avoid oversimplification, there's still one more illusion that trips people up, and it's not about math, it's about mindset, the belief that more money automatically equals more happiness. And so illusion 3 is that happiness threshold, the belief that if I have more money, I'll be happier. And I'm sure you've probably heard of some studies before. It's really popular that if you have income past, I think it was $75,000, that it does very little to contribute to additional happiness. Recent research, though, shows that happiness does rise with increased income, but the slope flattened sharply past $100,000 of annual spending. What I found really interesting, though, is that the study showed that those who already feel happier or who are happy do show more happiness as income rises because they're spending money on things that bring value to their life. It's the money's aligned with their values. Those who were already unhappy, the additional income had very little effect. So whether you have 2.5 million or 3 million or 5 million, whatever it happens to be, your day-to-day joy might often look the same. You get more options, not more happiness necessarily. It just depends on how well you're matching that money to your values and what's important in life. And I've seen retirees with millions miserable because they never gave themselves permission to spend. They might have had a self-limiting money belief like self-worth equals net worth. So watching that balance go down just hit at their identity and how they felt about themselves. And I've seen others with much less thriving because they did align money with what mattered most to them. And so the important part in financial planning, what should be at the heart, is what matters to you. That's the questions that you should answer first. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What inspires you? At the core, who are you and what do you care about? That's what should be at the center of every financial plan. The goal isn't to just keep growing that asset number. It's to use that number to live your best life. So an amount like 2.5 million or more, whatever it happens to be, that can buy freedom, but fulfillment and happiness, that's a choice. And so now how do you improve all this? How do you make things better? Well, I'll give you a quick implementation blueprint that you might be able to follow. So here's the truth. 2.5 million should be plenty to enjoy a comfortable lifestyle in retirement. And yes, I understand that there's geographical differences, but all things being equal, that should be enough to have a comfortable lifestyle if you avoid the illusions and the common mistakes. And so what you want to do here is you want to build a flexible withdrawal plan that can create psychological safety, not just spreadsheet safety. And I have quite a few videos talking about different withdrawal strategies. There's lots of different ones out there that can be used. It depends on how well it matches up to your psychology. But the most important part is making those adjustments year to year because there's so many variables that you don't know about the future. And you definitely don't want to fall for the quote too simple mistake. So the wrong tax strategy, investment product, or withdrawal choice, that can shrink your portfolio and assets just as fast as any bear market can. And remember, past a certain point, more money doesn't equal more happiness, only how well you use it does. And so success at higher wealth levels, it's not about the balance of your accounts, it's about avoiding illusions that can drain both your energy and your peace of mind. And at the beginning of this video, you might have thought that having an amount like 2.5 million or more equaled automatic retirement security. Now you know a little better that it's not necessarily about how much you have, it's how well you use it, how well you're planning. If you have questions about your retirement plan and you want to know if you're doing everything correctly, feel free to click the link below the video, fill out a quick questionnaire. I will give you my thoughts on your retirement based on your numbers and give you some tips that you can take to possibly improve. If I can help, just let me know. Thanks again, as always, for watching, and I will see you in the next one.